welcome back to our yearly roundup of all the weird news that has happened in 2022. I'm back today with a few more weird tales from the year just past, but as a reminder, this won't be your usual news roundup. This is strictly the stuff that makes you go, what? As quite frankly, the regular news is far too depressing, so instead we'll be exploring a few weird and wonderful stories that may have not made it into the regular newspaper. Now, that's not to say that these stories don't dally with the dark side, because sometimes they most definitely do. But there's also plenty of light-hearted strangeness too. But don't worry, if anything's going to be hideously awful, then I'll give you a heads up first. So with the disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into September. But before we do that, if you are new here, then hi, my name's Nikki and I make podcasts, videos and TikToks about all sorts of weird stuff. So if you're into that, which I have a sneaking suspicion you might be, then please hit subscribe so we can hang out together again. And if you're not new here, then welcome back, old fiend. Nice to see you again. Okay, so our first story today is a lesson in exactly why you shouldn't follow everything you see on TikTok. Once again, the short video sharing app is responsible for a bit of a media panic about a disturbing, potentially hazardous to health activity. When a video on TikTok of a man cooking chicken started gaining traction, it got shared out to more users across the platform, and when people realised what the weird recipe called for, they started to lose their minds. The video, which was posted by user IG_RobFlow, showed him making a recipe using 2 chicken breasts and an unlikely ingredient of Nyquil. Now, for those of you who aren't American, Nyquil is a nighttime cold medicine made by Vicks, which helps you sleep when you're feeling stuffy. It contains doxylamine succinate, which is an antihistamine, and this is what makes anyone taking it feel drowsy. The recommended dose is just a few millilitres, so consuming a whole bottle full alongside your evening meal is definitely a dangerous thing to do. As the TikTok spread around and people began reacting to it, it was picked up on by media outlets and shared around as what people were actually doing. However, as the media usually likes to do, it was hugely blown out of proportion, with the majority of people reacting to the video, realising it was a joke and warning people not to do this. It only took me a minute or so of searching on TikTok to track down the original poster's account, and it says very clearly in his bio that these are comedy videos. However, people did raise valid concerns that as the app does tend to have a younger demographic, that it may be seen by impressionable kids who might actually do this.
I'm cooking up some Nyquil chicken. I've done this in the past and usually I use it.
However, as it turns out, the recipe didn't actually originate from this TikTok. It goes way back to the recesses of the bile pit of online forums, which is 4chan. Back in 2017, someone posted about their recipe for sleepy time chicken, which uses a whole bottle of Nyquil to marinate a couple of pieces of chicken in before cooking. However, it doesn't stop there. The recipe then calls for half a bottle of whiskey in the marinade. Now, I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty certain that that is an instant recipe for death. So in case you were even thinking about doing this, don't, unless you want to go to sleep forever. So the sleepy time chicken recipe is nothing new. However, this boom in popularity of the TikTok, which has since been deleted, did cause the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in the USA, to issue a formal warning against making the recipe.
First of all, I think it's kind of nasty. I doubt it will taste good. That is pretty dangerous because one bottle of Nyquil actually has like 16 tablets of regular strength Tylenol, 8 times the regular dose of dextromethorphan, which is a cough suppressant, and 4 capsules of Unisom, which is your sleeping pill. Especially if you have liver issues, that is not good, especially that high dose of Tylenol. Please stay away from Nyquil chicken. It's not a good idea.
The chicken, which turns bright blue when cooked in the Nyquil, does make for an aesthetically interesting visual, so some people were tempted to cook it even if they didn't intend to eat it, and this was what worried the FDA more than anything else. What some people didn't realise was that by even cooking the chicken, the fumes which it produces could make people drowsy and cause them serious harm. The strange TikTok story went viral so much so that it even made it onto The Tonight Show, with Jimmy Fallon joking that the recipe for the chicken would cause consumers to drive to Taco Bell on the wrong side of the road going 3 miles an hour and join a prison gang. As yet, there have been no reported hospitalisations or fatalities from people cooking the cough medicine chicken. Continuing on with the weird food theme, our next story sees us travel to Ireland, where a strange discovery was found inside a woman's stomach. Doctors at St Vincent's University Hospital in Dublin were amazed at what they found when they examined a woman who was complaining of stomach pains. When doctors palpated her stomach, they could feel several small cylindrical objects in her tummy, and she admitted that she'd swallowed a large quantity of AA batteries. When the woman's stomach became distended, doctors made sure that she underwent an X-ray, and inside they could see the true extent of what was going on in her intestines, and luckily some of the batteries had started to pass. So doctors and the woman crossed their fingers and hoped the majority of them would pass naturally. Luckily, a large number of them did, but some were hanging around for a little too long in the woman's stomach, so doctors had to take action. A small hole was cut in her stomach so she could have a large number of the energy capsules taken out of her, and then nurses had to manually manipulate her stomach to move some more of them through her intestines so she could pass them comfortably. Remarkably, all of the batteries had stayed intact despite them coming into contact with her stomach acid, and despite the trauma of it all, she escaped relatively unscathed apart from the small operation site. After doctors removed the batteries, they counted that the woman had ingested a whopping 55 of them. As to why this happened, sadly the woman did it as an act of self-harm, and when she realised that this could kill her, she went to the hospital to seek help. The 66-year-old made a full recovery after the incident, but doctors from the hospital made sure to let people know that even though this was a very unusual incident, the ingestion of anything which isn't food can definitely cause serious injuries and, in some cases, death. The number of batteries removed from the woman is the highest number ever recorded to be found inside a human. Archaeologists in Poland were shocked to find something very unusual on a recent dig when they uncovered some human remains which hint to the woman's death and suspicions that she may have been a suspected vampire. A team from Toruń Nicholas Copernicus University in PN in Poland discovered the strange burial tradition in the 17th century graveyard. The skeleton they uncovered was that of a woman who had been buried sometime during the 17th century. The skeleton itself was unremarkable, except it had one protruding front tooth, leading the archaeologists to believe this may have resulted in the strange way she had been interred. Her body was found with a sickle around her throat, which had been pinned to the ground. There was also a padlock around her toe. She had also been buried in fine silk and wore a silk cap on her head, meaning that she was definitely well-to-do. These interesting items found upon her person hark back to a time when many people believed that corpses may return from the dead, particularly those of vampires. The mystery surrounding the corpse is that she had seemingly been buried with some care, but the extra measures of padlocking her toe and placing a sickle around her neck definitely make it seem like whoever carried out the burial made sure that she may not ever return, so perhaps there was more to this noble woman than her skeleton first reveals. The sickle around the neck is an old form of protection, as if a corpse were to sit upright, it would decapitate them, and the padlock is to make sure it's very difficult to walk, and that if the person tried to remove it, they wouldn't be able to, and everyone would know this was the walking dead. As it turns out, the skeleton discovered may not be all that unusual. In Poland, many archaeological digs have discovered human remains in interesting positions. For protection, a common burial technique was to remove the head and place it between the person's legs, sometimes facing downwards, so if the corpse did try to reanimate, it would be very confused indeed when it woke up. Some people had their limbs removed and placed upside down, and others had their skulls smashed entirely to prevent reanimation, so the superstitious could rest easy that their loved one wouldn't claw their way out of their grave with malicious intentions. The secrets around the corpse may still be discovered as the university has removed the remains for further testing, and here's hoping they get some answers about this vampiric noble lady sometime soon. But for now, I would very much be certain to make sure that she's stored somewhere very safely and that the drawer is locked, just in case. Thanks for joining me for that selection of weird stories. I really hope you enjoyed them, and if you did, there'll be more of them along soon, so make sure you're subscribed if you're not already to keep up with this little mini-series. If you're enjoying this yearly weird news roundup and what I make in general and you want it to continue, then please consider becoming a Patreon supporter like our executive Patreon producers, Amy, Christina, Jess, Karen, Kate, Kevin, Mary, Sally, Sam, Sarah, Vee and Veronica. And huge thanks to all of my other patrons too. And it's not all about money. If you can just share the show around, tell people, leave a 5-star review on your podcast provider, then it helps more than you'd know. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I've been Nikki Druce, and I'll see you ghouls next time for October.